And now we take a journey back in time to when the internet wasn't full of porn. Let's just hit this.
I like it. Yeah, I like it.
Greetings, Commanders, and welcome to a very special edition of LAAVE Radio. This is, in fact, the care home edition of LAAVE Radio, broadcast live at LAVECon 2019. I am delighted to be your host, second technician, Fozzer Forrester, and joining me in the care home this evening, we have got a few familiar voices, if not faces. Starting on my right, we have Chief Archivist for LAAVE Station, the ever so lovely and beardy Mr. Colin Ford.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, I think it's still afternoon, mate. The bar is still open.
He wants it to be the evening so we can go to bed.
And those dulcet tones you hear are the long time missing and missed dulcet tones of Mr. Jonathan Stabler, our
I only
head
remember that
of
calls me Jonathan.
Operations. You head of operations? You were head of operations.
I don't know why I got
You cleared
that
the
job.
toilets, didn't you? When we had a blockage in the station, you were the one that went to clear the toilets.
Yeah, it was a job title that seemed more impressive than what it actually was. That music, that original music, I love that. And I can't remember, did somebody who made the new music or the current music?
Was that you?
I'm not going to apportion blame. I was just wondering. But I remember when we changed the music, people complained because everyone thought the old one was funkier.
Right. Well, I mean, why don't we throw this open to the man, the maestro that was behind the new tune, which I actually quite like because I don't want to get on the wrong side of him. Head of station, Mr. Alan Stroud.
Yeah, I made the new music.
I like the new music.
It's quite weird, actually. We had a conversation. Must have been 3-4 months ago with the new team, and they were basically saying, "Yeah, we want new music. Can you do another piece?" And so I kind of started to think about it and started to put a new piece together that would have quotes from all of the new team. And then someone else piped up with, "Yeah, but no, you don't want to change it because it's anthemic. Everyone's really used to it." And it's like, oh, okay, it's got so old, it's become classic.
In fairness, I was greeted in the bar by Commander Astarion, who suggested that we should, for the main show tomorrow, the wrap-up show, we should actually get the audience to sing the tune. So broadcast from an orange sidewinder and hosted by and have the whole room to do that. And I'm thinking, are there actually words to the theme tune? Well, I guess there are.
Would you like diesel pop?
Diesel?
Reiterate.
And of course, the final member of the panel, the wonderful Commander Thane himself, the head of station entertainments, Mr. Christopher Jarvis.
Hello.
Oh, those dulcet tones. We missed those dulcet tones.
You can still hear them by buying LAAVE Evolution or supporting Escape Velocity on Patreon. You can hear my voice whenever you like. Dear God, please buy my USB cards.
Yeah, his kids have basically stopped paying for his care home, so he needs all the proceeds he can possibly get in order to keep him here in the lifestyle which he is very unaccustomed to. No, but guys, this is it. We're the band's back together.
Yeah, and the size of the audience reflects our first episode as well.
Yeah, in fairness. It's a good job we haven't actually got the live stream camera facing forward, is it? Because there is so many people in the audience.
They've just revealed that
Well, okay. Well, we can't really argue with the fact that Frontier put a free bar on either, can we?
No, that's the problem.
It's basically sabotage. We put them on early in the afternoon. They've set up a free bar, which means any events in here for the rest of the day are going to essentially be unattended, I think.
Well, no, I think that's not so much that they're going to be unattended and unviewed and unloved. I think it's more to do with the fact that people are planning on watching these back later. That's what it is. So, in the wonderful modern age that we have, we're being archived and watched later. So, hi to everybody and that's listening after the event. Thank you for not turning up to the actual panel. We appreciate that.
And in a minute, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do a sexy dance the wrong side of the cameras. So that'll be just for the people in this room.
Oh, God, no.
So that's alienated the few people that have come in the room.
Exactly. Those of us who've seen his sexy dancing before, it's probably best to leave now.
Lock the
We're
doors.
trapped here. We're chained underneath. We can't leave.
Lock the doors for exclusive content.
No,
Only fans.
we've all taken our water tablets, so you have probably got us for the next half an hour or so before we do need to disappear. But what we'd like to do for that half an hour is, well, first of all, for those people that are listening, probably more than for the people that are in the room, we're going to go through a little bit about how LAVECon came about and the first sort of early forays into the fan convention, and then I'm going to ask the guys here to do two things. I want two things out of you. I want your most positive memory or event or experience from the Elite Dangerous community. And this can be all the way back from the Kickstarter all the way through till now. And I also want your most, your most positive, or the thing that has impressed you most about the game from Kickstarter to now, what it is that Frontier have literally picked up and knocked out of the park. So when we were, in the doldrums, in the wastelands, waiting for the next Elite game to ever materialize, what was the thing that you wanted to be in the game, and has it appeared in the game, and have they managed to knock it out of the park? So who wants to go back to the beginning, back to the first ever show, which I do believe is somewhere in storage, possibly, which you guys will never, ever, ever hear.
There's two.
Two first shows.
There's two first shows that didn't air.
What, I
We
thought
were
there
that
was only
good.
one.
Really?
No, I'm sure we recorded. We ended up binning two of them. It was the third one that went out first.
Okay. I take it the first and second failed for the same reasons.
Yes.
Okay.
Are
So,
we really going to talk about C. Gavin again?
well, I wasn't going to talk about him by name, no, but now that you've mentioned him,
Oh, sorry. Was he meant to be anonymous?
the initial host, the initial guy who put the post out on either Kickstarter or the forums when the forums first started, asking for any volunteers that had an interest in podcasting about the journey of Elite Dangerous and the journey of the Kickstarter, and some of us signed up. Thought, that sounds like a good idea. We'll give that a go, and the person who put out the call was going to be hosting it, and the rest of us were going to sort of tag along. And we'd been active on the Kickstarter comments boards, and Alan was. I'm not sure if you were involved at that stage with him. He was, yeah. So he was the inside man that we had, who knew what the hell was going on to a certain degree. And the first show, we all sat down, we met up on Skype. We had a vague idea. Do we have a vague idea? I don't think we had a vague idea. We had an idea that basically, we would push record and off we would go. And our wonderful host, the guy that had brought us all together, was going to lead us in a wonderful roundtable discussion about the wonders of this new game, Elite Dangerous, that was coming out. And we all got there, we were all ready, and we pushed record.
He was so confident.
He was. So we pushed record and we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And then the host said, I'm sorry, guys, I don't know what to say. And that was it. That was the first show. And we struggled on badly for about 20 minutes before we sort of drew a curtain at that. And the guy went away. And no disrespect to him, it's not exactly easy to waffle on about nothing for a long time. It takes skill. Trust me. And then
Performance anxiety is a real problem.
Yeah. Really?
For some people. For some people.
If you want to change the direction of the show, you can,
They turn this into therapy.
I have this vague memory, Foster, that when we sort of started the reboot already, that you were going to be the host, and there was some talk of you having had previous podcast experience. So what was that? Maybe tell us about that.
I think that was probably bullshit, was it?
I was going to say, this is the definition of a fluffed out CV.
Wasn't it the My Little Pony podcast?
Hold on. No, whoa.
Foster's Brony universe.
No, whoa. I don't even remember claiming that I actually had any podcast experience. Podcasts were reasonably new when we first started doing
Didn't
them.
you have a
weren't
Darth Maul podcast?
No, I think the only thing that you did is that in like the first 2 lines of the first edition that we actually published and that actually came out, you subjected John to abuse.
Oh, I did.
Casual race. We started off with casual racism as our very first contribution.
Kicked it off with a Welsh joke. Thought that was going to go down well. Turned out not so much. Now there's far more Welsh people in the Elite Dangerous community than you'd ever imagine. And, you know, a few jokes about sheep and leeks I thought was quite appropriate. Turns out not so much. So I ended up eating humble pie for about the next 200
5
episodes.
years.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you ended up as a fan fiction author. That's
I
what you ended
did.
up as.
Yes. Well and truly stitched up. Darth Maul in a cobra. Yes. Anyway, some memories are best forgotten.
What about bitching missiles
I was
and
like
things like
bitching
that?
off a couple of missiles.
I love that line. I still love that line. There's probably, I'll probably write, I don't know, maybe another 7, 8 books in my life, but bitching off a missile is still going to be the best line I've ever written. Oh, no, I didn't write it. So.
No, absolutely. It took us a while to get our feet under us. I think we were helped greatly by the fact that we seriously edited the first shows that went out, and I mean, we talk shit. I mean, we still do talk a lot, but I think we talked for about 4 hours to get around about 45 minutes worth of airable content that some poor bugger, namely John at that point, had to go through and painstakingly try and edit any sort of intelligent conversation about the game into some sort of formats that we could actually kick out on iTunes. And it was a labour of love, wasn't it, John?
That's not how I describe it.
I believe they call childbirth a labour of love.
No, I mean, I had edited podcasts before, so I knew what it was like, and I was surprised I made it as long as I did before I said, guys, I ain't doing this anymore.
Yeah,
That's why we were dragged in.
Well, and the interesting thing is, as soon as somebody else had to do the editing, people started saying, maybe we should just do this as a live show and not bother editing it.
Now, I think you're truncating a little bit.
Because
I did a fair amount of editing.
Okay.
And Chris did some editing too.
Yeah, I did.
And not you, Father. And it, to be fair, it was just the case that we spent an awful lot of time laughing, and that was, and you still hear that sort of occasionally. We get a listener come back in and go, "Oh, I've just discovered your podcast. I've gone through the whole lot, all the way from the beginning." And they, it's one of the things they comment on is just how much of a camaraderie there's always been on the podcast, because I think it's still there with the current team, but certainly back then we just have to edit out hours of stuff where we just got something that we'd found funny, and then someone had topped it and topped it and topped it, and it just went on and on and on, and then someone would come in with, where were we?
And it's when you're doing the edit, it's when you cut out a massive tangent. You're like, brilliant! I've just saved about 45 minutes off this podcast by editing out this huge tangent, and then people kept referring to it for the rest of the episode. So you just have okay, I'm going to have to restore some of this tangent just so that the rest of the episode now makes sense.
Yeah, I recall many a times where Stabler would just shout out, "Jesus Christ, guys, I got to edit this crap. Will you please just get back on topic?"
Yeah, that sounds like me.
So it was good fun, and it's still. Oh, thank you for the beard, Shan.
Hey,
Yeah, so
I ain't got time to go to no stoning. He's sick again.
Oh dear. So we struggled on with that until we just couldn't fancy doing the 4-hour edits anymore. So then we took it.
4 hours?
We did get better.
We
did get better.
You might have done, and still took me about the best part of 2 weeks, which was nice because actually it took us so long to edit one show that by the time that we got around to recording another show, stuff had happened. Which, if you remember at the beginning, not a lot of stuff happened on a weekly basis. So the fact that we had a sort of a fortnightly / monthly podcast normally allowed you to have something new to talk about. At that point, Mr. Brooks had normally said something on the forums, or there'd been a new dev diary that was out, or something fantastic about the game had been launched, and that just kept us going. So the banter and the new stuff that was coming out on a regular basis really sort of kept the podcast going through at quite a good pace. So then we decided that obviously we'd been doing this podcast for 6 months, maybe more, and we'd never actually, apart from the odd webcam, we'd never actually clapped eyes on each other. So we had this wonderful idea that we would meet up. We had a few audio sound samples at the time that Alan and Jarvis had some what we called folio, which was new to me, or sort of music and sound samples and stuff.
Not actually folio, but
It's Foley.
Foley, yeah. So as you can see, I really picked up all the lingo. And we were gonna meet up at a hotel somewhere central, and we would transfer over this hard drive full of folio.
And the coke and hookers as well. Don't forget that.
So we arranged it for Cheltenham Spa back in 2013, and we stupidly put out on the forums that we were going to do it, and if anybody fancied coming along for a beer, then they were more than welcome. And that was the first LAVECon that came into existence, as we had around about 75 people rock up to join us for a beer at Cheltenham Spa Hotel. Frontier, as always, great at supporting the podcast. Mr. Brooks came along, and again, fair play to him, turned up in the room and gave us Frontier's view of how the game was going to develop, gave us his view of how he'd like the game to develop. He had the first swag that we had from Frontier, which was some really great concept art. I do remember a live version of the the Frontier theme from the Amiga, as performed by Jarvis and Stroud.
I'd blanked that out.
Please say there's still a recording of that somewhere.
Forgot about that.
Hated that.
That was brilliant, not least because Alan was on the keyboards, and we had this fantastic laser light show that Alan had brought in, which, don't get me wrong, was fucking awesome. The only issue about it was, obviously, it needed to be dark in order to do that, which was great, apart from both Jarvis and Alan kind of needed a little bit of light to be able to see what the hell they were doing in terms of doing this live performance. So it was a little bit on the stumbling side, but it really didn't matter, because it was just so great to hear the Frontier theme played live in the way that you did it, which was superb. And has never been heard like that before. I mean, forget Uncle Art. This Uncle Art has nothing on this rendition, folks. It really hasn't.
I think I did a stretch of 2 or 3 minutes of just improv blues guitar as well, didn't I, over a backing?
Pretty much.
Why? Why would I do that?
You did this with Guitar Hero, yeah? It was like Mark Knopfler meets the Elite theme.
I'd half recorded it and had 2 parts to play live, and then I missed a cue, and then I remembered why I hate performing music. It's the one thing in my life I cannot stand doing, and I literally don't know why I didn't remember that until that moment where I sat on that keyboard and I missed a cue. And at that point, I literally my life kind of flashed before me, and I turned into this ball of shameful sweat. It was just horrible.
Yeah, I thought you guys covered it up well. I don't think anybody noticed the massive pause in the performance.
Right, I just went to the bar.
Yeah,
I think that's what a lot of people did.
That is true. And of course, Colin, you were there on the other side of the fence, weren't you? You were there as someone that came along.
Not on the first LAVECon.
You weren't there?
I was on the second LAVECon.
I could have sworn you were there for Buckaroo. I put my teeth back in.
Yeah, I was going to say you were going to mention Graham and Buckaroo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's got to it.
Yeah.
So that Cheltenham Spa had a fantastic sideshow, which was Graham Reed's falling asleep after a few too many beverages in the foyer, and Alan introduced us to a fantastic game called Buckaroo, which was basically see how much stuff you can pile on a drunken guy before they wake up and realise that they're buried. And I think we got to about 10 cushions deep, didn't we?
No, it was. I mean, the thing is there was a cushion on every chair, and we'd pretty much depopulated all the cushions, and we were all very polite, and very much giggling and laughing, and it was quite late at night, and we were very polite, and we were sort of saying to the barman, "Is this okay? Is this okay?" And the barman basically turned around and went, "Yeah, I've got a permanent marker here if you want." You know?
And at that point, I have to say, the sense did kick in slightly as we vetoed the permanent marker. Probably after it got to about an inch away from his nose before somebody went and did the whole adulting thing and decided that maybe mutilating this guy's visage was not exactly the best way to make friends and influence people. So
it was a slightly worrying moment at times, because the thing with playing Buckaroo with somebody is that normally, it's like the Buckaroo thing where you're trying to gently put something on at any moment the person could wake up and shake everything away. But it's when you're playing Buckaroo with someone that you have covered in every movable object you have to hand, and they're still not awake, and it's like, oh, are they okay?
You could just see his feet.
Yeah.
That was it.
It's let's at least take the one off of his mouth.
Yeah, the one that's obstructing his airways. We'll move that. In fact, we didn't take it off. We just moved it to one side.
Yeah.
That's we created a channel. That's all we did. Yeah. So that was good fun. And at the end of the show, the end of the event, we did this ceremonial passing of the hard drive of sound effects and stuff. And to be fair, that's how we've closed off every single LAAVECon since. And the LAAVECon event itself has gone just from strength to strength. I mean, we've gone from an amazing 70 people rocking up just to have a beer with us to well over 200. I don't know what this year's numbers are.
It's usually well over 300.
Yeah, so
we Karen and I run a couple of conventions, and the numbers for LAAVECon are pretty consistent around the 300 to 400 mark in terms of attendees, which is incredible. And it's big enough that it doesn't ever lose its atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it has ever lost its atmosphere in all the years that we've done it.
No, absolutely, and it's nice. It's like meeting up with old friends and making new ones as well. I mean, one of the commanders, Commander Dobbo, said his biggest complaint for LAAVECons is that he can't spend any time with his old friends because he's too busy making new ones. Which I think, as far as a convention goes, that's not a bad thing. So no, I mean, I personally am quite immensely proud of how LAAVECon has transformed, and I suppose a special shout outs to Grant and to Dylan and to Simon, who put on all the technical stuff, because without them we wouldn't be able to do it, and likewise Karen, who is Alan's much better half. Who is the, I was going to say the brains behind the outfit, but maybe I shouldn't, seeing as he's only sat one place away from me.
Still out of punching distance.
I've got a compliment for you coming up in a minute. Don't ruin it.
Yeah, it's only been 10 years. She has, she has masterminded it. She is one of these people that is just, she is a logistics ninja. She is superb, and LAAVECon wouldn't run as smoothly as it does without Karen and Alan, in fairness, but taking charge and using their experience with the other conventions they put on to help us put this on. And it's just a really fun convention to come along to, and every time I get to chat with people at the bar and the Frontier guys, they all say the same thing, which is it's just a really nice atmosphere. It's like-minded people who have a shared interest in something, so you always have elite to fall back on. If you're stuck at the bar, you can say, so what are you doing in game, or you're chasing down Thargoids or mining void opals, but there's always something that you can chat about, and then obviously from there you branch off and you talk about the other things, that the weird and wonderful wacky world of conventions and stuff that we do here. We can talk about card games, we talk about board games, we talk about some of the stuff that Stabler does. So I'm just catching you on the screen. Your beard is rather off-putting. I don't know whether or not to move away from you or stroke you. It's quite alarming. But so the convention vibe is...
stroking, name of your
The convention vibe is great.
Chris Amish Jarvis.
He does look a bit Amish. I thought you said Hamish.
Well, this is what happened. I was going to put the beard up because it does have a mouth hole, and I was sort of working, and I caught myself with the beard only around my neck, and thought, actually, that's a look. I like that. That's fine.
Does it match the drapes?
Oh, we are all getting on a bit, so yeah.
What drapes?
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay, I think we're bordering into
One of those
oversharing now.
tangents. Yeah, one of those tangents. Just to pick up on what you were saying about the convention, I think one of the things we've learned, and we will continue to try and learn, is that the event needs certain things and it needs them to run well and consistently. At the same time, you can try stuff, and if it doesn't work, we don't do it again. But some years something's amazing, some years something's not, some years something's brilliant, some years it isn't so popular, and so on and so forth. So we do regularly sort of have the staples. We have the things that we always do, and then we have things that we sort of try and we pitch in and see if people want to do that. And to start with, I think in the early years we were sort of trying to push a bit hard, and then later we got used to the idea that actually it's a fairly chilled. You don't have to stress yourself out about too much of what you're trying to put together. People do not want someone dancing in front of them all the time. They're quite happy to spend some time chatting to their friends and having that in the schedule and everything else. So yeah, I think it's an interesting balance, and certainly it's a different balance for this particular convention.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was going to ask you guys about your best community experience and your best game experience, but let's just start with another one. Your best LAVECon experience, and you can't have Buckaroo because we've done that. So what's been starting with you, Stroud, what's been your best LAVECon experience?
Okay, it allows me to shoehorn something in, so I'll go with two. One is having you back.
Yay. How's these microphones working?
Yeah. Push.
The professionalism we miss.
So yeah, no, we've missed you, Foz, and having you back here for this year's event is fantastic. Not just in the fact that you bring incredible professionalism to your hosting and the things that you choose to do while having a beer in the middle of talking, but at the same time, just we started this as a team, and it just having one of your wheels gone on your car is kind of that makes you the bald tire in the corner. But it was a compliment. It kind of got sidetracked. But having you back is fantastic, and has been really good this weekend, and has really made me feel more like, I guess that more like this is a convention that and it's not to say I'm not comfortable when you haven't been here, but it just suddenly I relax. You being here makes me relaxed. I don't know whether that's slightly dubious.
No, we've been waiting.
helps me push.
You've been waiting 10 years for a compliment, Foz, and the best compliment is that you're a bald tire.
Hey, I'll take it. That's absolutely fine. No, thanks. It's been weird actually missing the last two LAVECons. Just as everybody who gets to a certain age will realise that sometimes adulting can really suck, and work-life balance and stuff that goes on in your personal life with your family and stuff. We've always had this thing with anything when it comes to the podcast, and that is family first. And we've had some. We've had some tough times in terms of cancer and stuff that's been going on, which has kept me away from the community. But the nice thing about being back is that you would never know I had been away. To be fair, it's as if I've gone from one LAVECon to another. I haven't missed 2 years at all. Similar faces. Everybody's there. Give you a hug, pat on the back. Nice to see you back. Now, get up there and get on the microphone so I can heckle you is normally what people end up doing. So it's nice. It's like putting on a comfortable trainer. Is that right? No. Anyway, it's nice to be back. Thank you.
Other highlight LAVECon would be the quiz when we got in the zone, when it was John, myself, and Chris, and suddenly the answers just flowed and flowed and flowed. That was just fun, it was just I don't know what happened, but I've never been in any quiz quite like that, whether to do with being here or to do with any pub quiz I've ever been in. Suddenly we went in sync, and suddenly Chris knew one answer, John knew a different one, I knew a different one, and that was it. We were away.
And I had a moment of revelation during that quiz, because I think sometimes your sort of earlier childhood memories can be quite difficult to recall. And because it was the kids' TV music round or something.
That was the whole quiz.
The quiz, it suddenly reminded me of Pole Position. And I suddenly had this very vivid memory that when I must have been about, I don't know, like 3 or 4 or something, Pole Position was my absolute favourite cartoon on TV. And that is not a thing I had even thought about in the last 20 years. I'd completely lost it. And as soon as I saw it, so that was, I mean, that's not obviously a LAAVECon thing specifically, but...
Well, considering that was the quiz that I put together, so
That's
yeah,
very good.
I'll take that. So
Yeah.
yeah, best LAAVECon moments, the stuff I organised. That's fine. I only ever actually organised one thing for LAAVECon, and that was it. So
Brilliant.
Yeah, talk about leaving on a high. I haven't organised anything else. We have got a quiz tonight actually, but this one is a bigger and better, and everybody gets involved. We haven't got teams. We've got everybody on their phones, so that one should be quite interesting. But no, that was good because it was 80s kids TV themes. In fact, it was just 80s TV themes. So we had things like Magnum PI. We had some really weird ones like Street Hawk. If anybody remembers Street Hawk, yeah,
I did.
it ran for. You're really proud of your ability.
I am.
Street Hawk and Mysterious Cities of Gold, and it was that wonderful quiz that we had a team from Frontier Developments, we had the LAAVE Radio guys, and we had Hutton Orbital, and everybody had a little bit of alcohol to help lubricate their brain cells. And we also had the audience as well. So if nobody on the actual teams could get it, then we threw it out to the audience. But to see a room of 100 people all going, it's I know this one, Blue Pizza, or something. And it was just like that ejaculation of I know this. It was hilarious to watch. It was a good quiz. So I think we might have to bring that quiz back for those people, because it's one thing that people always, of this generation, of our age, everybody had a similar sort of, 70s and 80s, late 70s, early 80s TV themes and stuff is one that everybody can get behind. So no, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's kind of depressing though, isn't it? That, I mean, we're literally sat here reminiscing, we've got nothing to look forward to, so we just think about the past all the time. Every year.
Global warming, war,
Brexit.
terror.
But Pole Position.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the geriatric care home version of LAAVE Radio. So this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing, isn't it?
Yep, no, I totally agree.
So Jarvis, favourite LAAVECon? I'll have to keep speeding through this because I don't know what time it is.
I mean, I've got a couple of things. One is not so much a specific LAAVECon memory, but I love the way, since we tried it the first time, I love the way Artemis has continued to be brilliant and really popular and so immersive. Because I think as elite players, there is always that dream of being in a ship with a crew of people and you're all kind of working together. And I think, like for me, I think Artemis has kind of realised that thing of being in that room, particularly once Alan had, and the guys had got their heads around the sort of the lighting and the sounds and all that kind of thing. Just such an immersive experience, and I'm so impressed with the way that's continued to be so great. But as a more personal thing, I really enjoyed the year. I think it must have been year 3, maybe not. When we did the live audio drama.
Oh, that was awesome.
So we did. So this was off the back of. I think I was still working on the official Elite audio books.
Year 2.
Yeah, it was year 2, was it? And I managed to convince some of the cast of Escape Velocity to come down, and some other volunteers. And we just did an audio drama live with sound effects playing in, with some actual practical effects being done on site, like the fire guard that to this day I use for Stompy Boot.
Grant was on practical effects and I was on samples.
Yeah.
And I still remember. And again, I hate performing anything live in terms of music or anything associated with it. So I'd obviously put it in that bracket because I missed a cue. And you looked at me and went, Alan? Still remember that.
Yeah. But this many years, I don't remember what that was this many years later. But that was fun because it's always, the kind of art of, I mean, obviously I produce audio drama and stuff like that now, but the history of it, these things were done as live, on live radio. So it's really nice to be able to try and do that. So that's the more personal thing for me.
Was that the year that we smashed a whole load of One Direction mugs?
Yes.
Like a whole load of One Direction mugs.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that was the year after that.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Was that, we
No,
announced that hotel
because
once.
you did the audio performance reading at Kettering,
Yeah.
and the year we smashed the mugs, we smashed them here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nods at the
So
back.
it was
Yeah.
the year,
No,
it was
that's
the year
right.
after we had a special booth with a concrete box, and we smashed them here.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
First
the
year we
first
were here.
Docker's performance was
Fair.
here.
This is getting more like the care home version of the lady.
It's all blurring together. It's all blurring together. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. It was Daphne, wasn't it?
I definitely think
it was
we
Daphne. It was
I'm
definitely Daphne.
glad. I'm keeping it in order.
Right, moving across to Stabler. Favourite LAAVECon?
A favourite LaveCon? Well, first of all, I thought you said favourite community thing. That was
I did.
brief. But LaveCon, I can kind of answer that one. Mine's not actually a specific moment. It's more of a... I wouldn't even know how to describe it, or there's a name for it. But I'll try and describe it.
I was going to say, please try.
I will try. Otherwise, I'll just quit and hand over to Colin. But I guess it's the kind of, like, the community stuff that happens at LaveCon. So, like, Dockers, right? Now, Dockers, let's be honest, right? It's bizarre, right?
Just bizarre
It's
filth.
so niche. It just shouldn't work. It's puerile, okay? Writing a character called David Brubin who gets angry a lot. And I'm like, oh, this is serious content. But it is serious content.
Apologies in advance if John's mic or camera just like cuts out randomly for no reason.
No, in a way I want to compliment it because, at the first glance, if you were an alien visiting, if you were just a normal person visiting us, you think, who are these nutcases? And why is everyone shouting mug? But it's that kind of stuff that keeps people together. So every year, stuff is happening. We're getting more of that kind of stuff. So we're getting more Dockers, people are getting more confident, more stuff's happening with that. And then you just walk around outside, you got people with a rat on their shoulder. And, it's, that is the feeling. That's what I like about LaveCon.
So you like the bizarre, is what you're saying?
No, I like the community and how it shows its best side here.
You think Dockers is the best side of the community?
Look, I
What?
managed to make out that Dockers was not completely trash a minute ago, and you're now making me try and walk that back. It's not going to happen.
No, I wouldn't say it's trash at all. I just said to say you like the more niche, bizarre side of the community, which is great. Mr. Ford,
Yes.
what's been your favourite LAVECon experience?
Well, I have to admit it's this one.
This
Because
one?
I made it.
Yay!
No, because basically, for those of you who didn't know, I almost didn't make it last year. So, yes, it's just nice to be here, and I will agree, the community that comes together at this convention is basically, I think, the best one that I've come across in online gaming. I don't think I've managed to see anywhere else where it does match.
So for those people that aren't watching the live stream, Grant, who is working behind the scenes, has put a
I was the coffin dodger earlier, yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to talk so I can see what mine is, because I forgot to look. What was mine? No, come on, bring it up. Demon Debuggerer, thank you very much. They're not actually laughing at our jokes, they're just laughing at whatever Grant's putting up there.
on the screen behind us.
I've got another favourite LaveCon moment, but there we go. Fine. Yeah, no, I thought that would bring that up too. The Dave Lowe.
Oh, good point.
The Dave Lowe premiere. That this room just became something amazing at that moment. When that first got heard. I mean, I was crying, man. When I had that Frontier theme done, and I mean, I was down at Abbey Road for some of the recording anyway. But the fact that you heard the final version being premiered in this room, wow, it just absolutely broke me. So yeah.
No, that is, I'd agree with that. So, what time have we got here, guys?
5:10 according to the thing.
5:10.
Is it pie?
What time are we on till?
Well, we've got as long as you want. You don't have to.
Well, no, 'cause
6 o'clock is the next scheduled thing, so you can end when you're ready to. Because after all, you've got to have a lie down, and you know.
I think Daphne will be coming round with the trolley any moment.
I want to know what time Neighbours is on. What time's Neighbours start?
My mum
Is
still
Neighbours
watches.
still going?
I think Neighbours is still going.
Yeah, my
actually.
mum still watches it.
It's on Channel 5 or something really daft. Right, cool. So, in which case, let's go back along the line, starting with Colin, and let's have your let's have your best community moment outside of LAVECon.
Oh, now you're asking. I think probably it started off bad, but the Dove Enigma response. For those of you that don't know, Dove Enigma was doing basically a trip around the galaxy. He has terminal cancer, and everybody was basically trying to help. Trying to help
Who's
out.
laughing in the audience?
Yeah, it's funny that terminal cancer, and everyone started, and we've got one person laughing.
Cancer, lol.
Oh, sorry. Grant, will you please stop hanging around with the screen behind us? People are laughing at inopportune moments.
Sorry.
Right, so go on, still breathing.
Well, of course, the thing happened that usually happens. Trolls get involved and try and wreck the event, and the way that the community responded to that was basically to untroll the trolls. Which, to be honest, I know that Frontier were about to step in and try and rescue the event, but the community got there first, and that gave you a kind of feeling that, yeah, you get people like that, but our community is better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great shout. Stabler?
Oh, community thing. Well, this is actually going back in time, but the DDF, believe it or not, I thought was great because that was like a kind of genesis for a lot of people who were, and there's still loads of DDF people in the community.
I want the light to come on. Okay, turns out didn't want the light to come on.
Anyway, I'm just going to say DDF because unfortunately, I'm not like some others who've done lots with other bits of the community. I am just all about the LaveCon. So for me, the community at one point was the... This is so puerile. At one point, it was the forums. Anyway, go on, Foz. Your turn.
No, DDF, absolutely. Go for it.
No, that was it. I've said it now.
No, I agree with that because that's a really nice thing because that was a community thing in terms of all the other players and really getting to know the rest of the player base during the formative stages of the game's development. But I think also helped cement a lot of our relationship as players with Frontier because lots of games companies now, because of things like crowdfunding, do engage with their user base a little bit on certain aspects of the game. But I think it's very easy to overlook just how much of the design process Frontier completely opened up to that part of the community and just how much the elite players contributed to the way things were. I mean, the fact that you have Super Cruise is entirely the result of a poll. What? Hey, girl. Oh, yeah, that's fair. The fact that you have like Super Cruise in the game instead of some other weird system, that is entirely the result of the DDF and some polls that were put out where people said, actually, no, we don't want... Was it was something to do with originally it was going to be micro jumping, wasn't it? So there was this concept that I think I understood it as being a bit like golf, where hyperspace is like your drive from the tee to as near as you can get to your destination, and then you make a series of smaller shots to try and get as near as possible, and then eventually the putting green is regular drive. But the fact that Super Cruise ended up in the game was people sort of said, oh no, we don't want to do that. We want to fly through the system ourselves. And then Frontier said, okay, we need to figure out a way of doing that doesn't involve you being in space for 6 months. For credit.
And fairness, Super Cruise is a really enjoyable game mechanic.
Yeah?
I was just about to say, actually, that I said DDF, and then you gave the example that undermined the DDF, because I'm thinking the more time people are saying, oh, guess what? I've just spent 40 hours in Super Cruise, and I've got a mug. And I'm like going, what have we become? Why are we doing this? Maybe Frontier had it right before the DDF got involved. So that'll be tonight's thing to discuss at the bar. Yeah.
That segues nicely
Controversial opinion. Would it actually be better if we didn't have Super Cruise and we just arrived everywhere really quickly and did the interesting stuff like... No? Okay, fine.
No, I was going to say that segues quite nicely into my favourite community thing. I think we forget that it's a community thing because it's become such a huge part of just the fabric of Elite Dangerous. My favourite community thing is Hutton. It's just everything to do with Hutton Orbital and Alpha Centauri and everything that's gone on with that. It's easy to forget that was the result of, essentially a joke. There was, just the fact that there was this thing that happened to come up in the game that was just a ludicrous piece of gameplay, which if anybody was finessing a game, there is no way you would create a location in the game that not only takes like an hour and a half to fly in real time, but in actual fact, let's be honest, there isn't a lot to do when you get there. Everybody who turns up in a ship larger than a medium-sized ship discovers that there really isn't as much to do as you might think. But it's just such a great thing, and I think it's a real testament to the kind of sense of humour of most of the people who play Elite Dangerous, that the idea of spending an hour and a half basically just watching a movie while your ship flies on its own is something that the community embraced so much and have created an entire group and kind of subculture around. For me, kind of what Hutton Orbital Truckers have done, that kind of is my Elite Dangerous. There's not really, when I sort of think about doing any Elite stuff outside of that, I'm not really sure why I would. Hutton, for the mug.
For the mug.
That's very much my highlight.
How did that start? Wasn't there a free, people saying there's a free Anaconda or something if you go to Hutton Orbital?
Yeah.
I'm sure that got captured in 3. But that got picked up in the gaming press, didn't it? That just that joke got picked up in the gaming press, which I thought was absolutely great. And they've a few times I've gone to Hutton because there's been some really good movies I wanted to see. So there's always a good reason to go to Hutton, not just for getting the mug. Alan, what's been your best community event?
Probably, and it requires a slight bit of explaining, but actually the launch and the reason...
Oh, you son of a bitch. Don't go with the launch.
No, I was going to say the launch.
No, don't go with the launch.
Why?
Because that's what I was going to go
with.
with.
You're going to be stuffed then, aren't you? And the reason the launch was my favourite was actually because of the... And you can segue in, you'll be all right.
That's all right.
So actually, the reason it was because the conversations, the fact that we got to turn up, and we'd had sort of conversations here at LAVECon, but actually I wasn't running anything, which was nice. We ran a table, Karen and I were there with stuff about LAVECon and things, but just wittering the night away, talking to people about the stuff we loved about the game, about the things that it was going to be, that it could be. The ambience, the atmosphere. I still go past the aircraft museum just occasionally on a drive and go, oh yeah, it was a wonderful night.
It was a wonderful night. I feel like bursting into song. Oh, what a night! But no, because obviously with that one, we got to see the scale model of the Cobra and the big reveal, and you had David Braben there in his mono glasses and grinning from ear to ear. Like a Cheshire cat as the hangar doors opened, and we had lots of dry ice. And no, it was really nice. And it was a nice sort of experience to think that, as we've already said on the podcast, about all those times you imagined the game that you played, the 1984 version or whatever different platform you played it on since, getting a remake. And and doing it justice. And here we all were at this launch event that, it was like Top Gear for space nerds. It was crazy. You had your seating, you had the sofas with David Braben doing interviews, you had the big Conda there, you had all the other flights, the planes, in the flight museum all around. It was a really, really good night, and it was a really just nice night for LAAVE Radio to go and meet people. Just because we saw a lot of people that came to the launch party that obviously hadn't come to the LAAVE cons that we had at the time and stuff. So just coming over and saying, yeah, your voice, your face really doesn't fit your voice. Did you know that? I was like, thank you. I've been told that many times this evening. But yeah, so it was a nice way to meet members of the community that we'd had no interaction with before. And again, Frontier were really generous with their time, and they came over and they did interviews. And Grant and I spent most of the evening just grabbing people off the floor and shoving them in the microphone and saying, speak positivity, speak good things about this game. And that's when we first met up with who's the sound guy, Scottish guy. Sound engineer,
Jim Croft.
Jim Croft, and this is someone that we hadn't come across before yet. The sound, I think everybody can agree, the sound in Elite Dangerous is just phenomenal in terms of creating the universe. And this is the first time we had Jim on the microphone, and the guy talked so eloquently and so passionately about what they were doing within the game, and that sort of resonated amongst all the devs that we got in front of the mic, and everybody, from the fans that were there at launch party to the devs that were there working on the game, everybody had this love for Elite that carried over into creating the game. And I don't think there's many games where you see that sort of the love for the product come through into the final delivery. So that, for me, I think is probably the best experience. So talking about the final delivery, that's a nice segue onto the last thing I wanted to ask you guys, which is your favorite thing, the slam dunk that Frontier Developments have done when it comes to this game. The thing that, you thought it was good, but actually what they've done is far better than you could possibly imagine. So we'll start off with you, actually. We'll go the other way down the table. So, Alan.
It's quite personal, actually. The guys pointed out to me, because I'd been away for a long time. I hadn't played the game for a long time, and there was one episode where I came back on and got into the attic and got back into the machine, dusted off one of my ships, started to fly around, and just at the end of the podcast, they said, "Have you actually looked at the points of interest system?" I said, "No, I haven't been to the points of interest. No, I should. No, you're right. You need to flew over to it, and just target that, and then let it give you the text." And at that point, I realised all the stuff I'd written had been used for the point of interest system, and to see that it was being used, and I didn't write all of them. There are hundreds and hundreds of them, but to see that, word for word, all the stuff I'd written several years before as their documentation, they'd preserved it, they'd kept it, obviously someone had gone through it, they'd decided what they were going to use, what they weren't going to use, and they developed their passenger points of interest system based on a load of writing that I'd given, and it totally, I didn't know how to feel about it, I felt really humble, which is really strange, all these years later to look at that and go, oh, wow, and wow. It was just really, really, really touching.
Cool, Jarvis.
I would wax lyrical again about the sound in the game, because I do think it's the best sounding game I have ever heard.
Yeah.
And it is obviously, with Escape Velocity, it is something I spend a lot of time with the way the game sounds. But for me, like in terms of playing the game, the thing that I most wanted to be right with the new game, and the thing that Frontier have absolutely nailed from day one, so much so that when it's not right, you blame it on the individual ships, it's just the flight model. I mean, I've played a lot of space games over the years, and the thing that I really wanted from Elite Dangerous was something so intangible. I just wanted the ships to feel right to fly, and I wanted joystick control. I didn't want a game where you direct the ship with the mouse or via commands to a like a point and click thing. I wanted basically what Frontier delivered, which was a flight simulator in space. And those ships, couldn't handle any better, I don't think. And when it comes to it, when I got, which vehicle was it? It's one of the Asps. And I'd been used to flying what was I flying before that? I was in the Cobra, I think. And then I it was one of the Asps, and I went to try and turn to go, like I was approaching the station, the entrance from a sort of 90-degree angle, and I did what I would normally do, which is sort of at the last minute turn and go in through the thing. And again, I was used to flying the Cobra, and my Asp, I turned it, and it's like, nope, just kept going. And I sort of saw the entrance go past. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to need to learn to fly this one side differently. But that's the thing for me. It's just, given that so much of the game is around flying from point A to B rather than just teleporting to where you can go, the fact that just controlling those ships and manoeuvring them, and like when you're in asteroid belts, particularly if you've got the, that's one of my favourite community things, is the Ed Tracker, because the Ed Tracker is such a good piece of kit. But when you're flying around a large asteroid and you're able to kind of, or in VR, you're able to kind of fly around it and sort of look at it as it goes past, it feels completely intuitive to control those ships. And they couldn't have improved on that from my point of view. It's perfect.
So I'm trying to think now, was it the Asp or was it the Adder that had possibly, in my opinion, some of the worst engine sounds in the game? The one that goes...
No, that's the Asp Scout.
Right.
Yeah, the Asp Scout,
It's a fart engine.
It is a fart engine.
It is. No disrespect to the guys, as you say, the sound in the game is absolutely phenomenal, but that is a standout one for me. Because the engine just sounds so bizarre.
Jim Croft, we take with one hand and we give with the other.
Sorry, do apologise. Yes, so stable.
No, but in fairness, in real life, some vehicles do just sound weird, and they've perfectly modelled that. Not every ship can be brilliant. Some of them have to be lemons built on a Friday.
True.
Can't have everything sounding like the Courier.
Yeah, the Courier does sound nice.
What was I going to say? Well, I think originally I said I was going to talk about the graphics. But what can you say apart from saying that they got better and better, and it's surprising how good some of these community screenshots look.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me want to play it more when I see some really cool looking planets. But that's not really that interesting. Personally, I want to thank Frontier for leaving the docking computer in the game. Now, I know a lot of people are very elitist about the docking computer. When you get to my age, you need more toilet breaks. And also, you can go make a cup of tea and things like that. So, well done, Frontier, for giving me a natural break in the game where I can just go and do something quickly. Like Amy will say to me, oh, can you get me a drink downstairs? No problem, I'm just going to put it on the dock now. And I'm glad that they've carried on now with the Super Cruise Assist. So I'm loving it. I just hope now that they can just give me a whole navigation computer that can just fly me there and back. And then a heads-up display that you can populate from another video device. So you don't need another screen to watch, Netflix. And I think the game's there. It will be a truly millennial game.
You can do that in VR. You need to get yourself a VR headset, and you can actually import a panel into your ship.
Well, no, I got a 4K screen, and I think that it's big enough that they should be able to stick like a little video thing in on the dash. Even if I got to turn my head slightly.
Fine. Colin.
Well, mine's actually a bit weird because it involves all of us. Because it was the first time we all tried the multiplayer together.
Yes.
And there was a scenario as part of the alpha where we all had to either attack or defend anacondas that were mining. And so we all decided, sod it, let's go there and just blow each other up for an evening, which led to a lot of almost falling outs and tears and tantrums. But to be honest, the best thing about it was the fact that it went to prove that the actual whole multiplayer engine worked in Elite Dangerous, which was my major concern. And once I realized that, okay, the instance thing, as we all know, can be a bit flaky from time to time, but when it does work, great. Still breathing-ish.
I think for me, there's a few things I could pick out, but I think I'd go with VR. As we've said earlier on today, Elite Dangerous is still the go-to game. It's still the gold standard in terms of a VR experience. You are such an arse, Grant. In terms of the gold standard, what VR can actually do to you, for you in terms of immersion. So when you're flying these ships, and even if you've got a really nice big 4K screen, it looks impressive, the graphics look nice and everything else, but the sense of scale of the game doesn't really hit you until you've put on a VR headset and gone docking into a space station. That sort of, it's almost like a 2001 moment as you go through the slots, and you just see how big these things actually are and how small you feel. And suddenly, I don't know if anybody else had the same reaction, but docking became very scary when you had the sense of scale. I had absolutely no problem docking when was just doing it on the screen, but when I was actually sat there in VR and seeing the size of this thing, it was bloody intimidating. And if you can get that sense of intimidation and just that sense of scale from VR, Frontier have really managed to capture that in a way that I don't think I've ever experienced in any of the other VR scenarios that I've come across. And full credit to them. Straight out the box, they said, "Okay, we're going to support VR." And pretty much, if you think about all those exhibitions and stuff we did, it when it was the pre-candidate release one. When it was all blocky and everything else, and they had the press there, and people were trying Elite Dangerous for the first time, doing the tutorial missions, but being able to actually track the enemy fighters just by sitting there, hands on the controller and looking around the cockpit and seeing, not only for themselves, but everybody watching them on screen, seeing just how they can just track a fighter going up overhead with very little sort of motion sickness. For that early technology, it was just a phenomenal achievement. So, I'm really looking forward to seeing how far they can actually take the VR. And it came up today in the question in terms of PlayStation. I know different systems and stuff, but it would be wonderful if they could introduce the PlayStation console to the sort of wow factor that we got, with the PC version of VR. Whether or not it is possible, who knows? But I think that was a groundbreaking moment for me in terms of knocking it out of the park.
If I recall, wasn't the first time we tried the VR, wasn't that the same weekend? Wasn't that the BAFTA thing down at Tobacco Docks?
Yeah.
Which is actually the same weekend that we got the inside of the Coriolis reveal.
Yeah.
Because that was the big reveal, which we'd never seen anything. We'd never flown inside the Coriolis before. So actually, it was that double whammy of seeing that first moment of the inside the Coriolis combined with doing it in VR was just absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, no, agreed. Does anybody have anything else that they wanted to bring up?
No, I've got to go.
You've got to go.
I've got to go. Thank you all very much.
So Jarvis's water tablets have run out, so he's got to go. But I think we'll probably wrap that up there. But guys, it's been great sitting back around a set of microphones with you all. We should do this more often, not leave it for another 80 years.
Yeah, we could do it every week. We could do a podcast.
We could do a podcast. That's a really good idea.
I still do a podcast.
Yeah, me too. So a massive thank you to Colin Ford, to John Stabler. I have to try and remember all your bloody names now. God. To Colin Ford, to John Stabler, to Chris Jarvis, and to Alan Stroud. That's it for this episode of LAAVE Radio live at LAAVECon. Fly safe, and if you can't do that, fly dangerous.